How can you take a trade on that? CLVS coming up. Oh, so it just hit 8 o'clock, so might see some more things coming up. So CLVS, put that in the active trader window. Just because it has really nice volume here. Over 200,000 shares of volume traded in the first 1 minute candle. So we'll see if we can get a move back up on this. Pushing back up to its all-time, or its pre-market highs right now. Buy 10 shares, just see if we can get the breakthrough. Immediately pulled back. So coming back up. SLDB. I'm probably gonna jump out of this just because it's looking weak right now. It's significantly less volume on this second green candle. It broke out, but then immediately pulled back. So I'll just pull out for the little loss I have right now. SLDB. The ZKIN's looking weak right now, so let's check out SLDB. SLDB, I mean, at least for day trading, it looks terrible today. Literally, like, no volume coming in at all. I do recognize this name, so I assume that there were days when it traded pretty well. So back here it traded, but traded on higher volume, but all red. It's looking like the hourly. Yeah, so this day back here was pretty solid. It looks like whenever it pops up on news, it does really well. It's just, at least today, it's not doing anything. So, don't think it's going to be one I'm going to trade. And as we were talking about that, CLVS popped back up, but seems to be quite a lot of indecision. It's pretty volatile. It's popping up 50 cents, pulling back 40 cents immediately. Let's look at the daily on this. The daily, within the last couple weeks, it has been up in this $11 area. So there's quite a lot of room to move up before it gets back to its recent highs. And, putting a ton of red candles in a row on the daily here. So I would be worried that we're going to encounter a lot of selling coming up just because people are holding from back here. And this is like a common trend that we've seen in the last few weeks where there's been quite a few stocks early in February, late January when GameStop was going crazy, the market was going straight up still, that hit all-time highs or at least very high recent highs. Pretty much pulled back the entirety of February. And then when we see them trying to push up now, they're just encountering all these people who are just holding shares from the previous highs, looking for opportunities to get out of the next bump up. So this is like not uncommon. We've seen this happen, probably a dozen, 2 dozen times in the last few weeks. And in recent experience, we'll see maybe the first good bump, second bump, and then we'll just see it like sell off for the rest of the morning. We'll see if CLVS ends up like this. What's the float on this thing? CLVS 100 million share float? Really? I'm actually gonna restart my scanners real quick. Just because I didn't update my ticker list this morning, so I want to make sure we're not missing anything. Because recent IPOs, new tickers being listed, those happen, on a somewhat daily, weekly basis. You see a few new ones, so I usually try to update my ticker list every morning. This morning I forgot, so I just have a script to do it. So stuff should be up on Olive Guardians again now. Yeah, if you're in the chat, you're new here, and you want to follow along with the stuff that I'm buying and selling, check out oliveguardians.com. I got all my scanners up there, so everything that I trade in the morning comes off those scanners. I usually, when I first sit down, I look at anything that's moved above 25% to see if there's anything that's, made some really nice moves this morning. SNES is the highest gapper at the moment, but it's also pulled back a pretty significant amount of its moves, so it's not one that I'm actively watching. And then the movers is anything that's being actively traded, so moved up more than 8% in the last 5 minutes. And that's usually where I catch stuff that's coming up on news, and then I try to take trades on that when the momentum is with it and when new buyers are still jumping in. So check those out at oliveguardians.com. CLVS, the most recent mover that popped up, but seems to be pulling back a bit. So this is, story of the last few weeks. Came up really nicely, pulled back 50% of the move so far. And I mean, we'll still keep an eye on it. It does have the potential to come back up, but I'm just worried about this daily chart and us running into, all of this recent resistance. So, there's like resistance coming into $8, resistance coming into $8.60, $9.60. So it's just resistance all the way up. Yeah, and $6.90 was a big point of resistance. So you can see we went up to $6.99 and then immediately pulled it back. So at least the daily chart holding true on that one. ZKIN now has pulled back very significantly. We were watching it earlier on this candle here, this 1 minute candle on the trying to break through VWAP. It tapped off VWAP and pulled back. Obviously that was a bad sign, so we didn't end up taking a trade on it. What we would have wanted to see is we wanted to see it push up through VWAP, try to retest, come back down, see if it'll hold above VWAP, and then if it held above VWAP as it pushed up through 13, I was planning on buying there. Unfortunately now, it's essentially tapped VWAP, tapped it again over here, and then just fell off completely. So we're still up, about $14 on ZKIN. But I really doubt we're going to take another trade on it today. It just does not look good. Fortunate. We can check out SNES. I kind of said that today it made a nice move. Pre-market, starting at 5 o'clock, it was at $2. It moved all the way up to $4.60, but it's just steadily been coming down for the rest of the morning. So I think it's going to be a bit before we see that come back up, if it is going to come back up. And highest volume of the day so far is on selling candles, so it doesn't look likely that it's going to come back up, considering it's just been sitting below VWAP. So CLVS now does have a buying point as it comes up through 633 right now. So on the 1 minute chart, as we push up through there, the 5 minutes looking fairly large and red. So really the buy point for this would be like, as it's coming up through 630, we'd want to buy for the expectation to break over this 5 minute high. And if it popped up through 633 and immediately pulled off VWAP, we'd probably have to sell our position. If it popped up through 655 and then, started pulling back, we'd also have to sell our position. But I don't even know if I'm going to end up taking a trade on this. Like I said, just in recent weeks, we've seen how these stocks have generally been going, and generally when they do something like this, and you look at the recent daily highs, and there's a lot of resistance on the way up, then it never really recovers. And it is unfortunate. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see it push back down through $6. Not really too much to comment on at the moment. We can look at some of the stuff that was popping up yesterday. So we had OCG coming up really nicely yesterday, and this is a kind of similar to CLVS. I'm pretty sure. Oh, actually, no. Oh no, this was the one that was like literally all-time highs except for this one point, which is similar to ZKIN at the moment. Unfortunately, ZKIN is pulling back. OCG, this thing just grinded up throughout the whole pre-market. It was looking really nice. So it jumped up, had a bit of a pullback, was holding below VWAP for a little while, but then just made steady moves all the way from 8 o'clock, to 9:10, just steadily pushing up the entire morning. So I was hoping maybe ZKIN would be something like that this morning, but ZKIN, although it was close to all-time highs, it's now pulled back. If it was holding right below VWAP, it would have been really nice, but it's pulled back, dollars from VWAP now, so it's just it just looks like it's not in the cards there. We took a trade on BHTG yesterday too. So BHTG, insane 5-minute chart. So if we look at the 1 minute, it kind of did something similar to what we're seeing like CLVS do right now. But yesterday we caught the trade as it pulled back here on the 1 minute. So pushed up all the way to 330, pulled back down to below 3, and then as it was getting bought back up through 3, I took like 200 shares pushing through 3, and then ended up selling them off for I think 25-cent profit coming up through 340. I bailed out before this big red candle came through. And then it pretty much spent the rest of the morning pulling back, which you hate to see, but a lot of these have been doing stuff like this recently. JG, I think we ended up taking a trade on yesterday, but we ended up losing money on this. So, similar deal here, where within the first 4 minutes of trading, it had made probably like a 75% move, pushed up from 6 to 8. It only made like a 35% move, so it made a 35% move, but with essentially no pullbacks. So I was waiting for pullbacks on this to try to take trades, and just really none came. I think I ended up taking one trade on it somewhere close to here, as it was pushing up through 750. But then I didn't take any shares off at the top, and I think I was holding through the pullback when it came back down. So, an unfortunate thing. And then similar story to the rest of them, where it just pulled back and kind of just went sideways until the market opened and kind of fell off. AREC was looking good yesterday too. Another one where it popped up on news, completely sold off coming into the open. So now you can see, like, as I'm showing you guys, like, the stuff that we were looking at yesterday, it's like it makes sense why we should be more careful on CLVS, because tomorrow I'm sure I'll look back at this and I'll be like, oh yeah, look, it had a nice pop, 3 green candles in a row without too much of a pullback, and now it's just selling off and under VWAP. So it's been the story of the last few weeks. So now that we have that in mind coming into today, we know that we should be more careful on stocks like this. So SPCB just popped up on the scanner. Things seem to be moving pretty nice. Pushing up fairly well right now. Very high volume on this candle. What's the news on this? COVID-19 quarantine compliance project with Israeli government. Okay. So a buying point could have been pushing up over 234 right now, but I want to wait for like an actual red candle to be put in. But it seems like in recent in recent days, it's like waiting for the red candle is like as soon as it starts putting in a red candle, it's dead. Like by the time it puts in a red candle, you've already missed the opportunity. So this thing's still just pushing. So let's see, candle ends in 10 seconds. It seems to be climbing pretty well at the moment. See what this next candle starts with. So it seems to be pushing up. I'm gonna take some shares for this move up through $3. So see if we can get through 3. Took 30 shares at 282, so not really a massive position. Seems to be struggling a little bit coming up into 3, unfortunately. So we'll see if it pops through here. Having a little bit of trouble coming up into 3. I'm gonna take off a few shares as it comes up into 290, since it seems like it's struggling up there. And we're pulling back a little bit, so I'm probably gonna take off a few more of these shares. Now, pretty big wick on this candle, and I assume this next candle is probably gonna push lower, so I'm gonna sell off. This really big wick on this 1 minute candle, definitely a little spooky. So this is like the expectation after this, that we sell off a bit. So now I guess the next buy is over $3 if we want to try to do that. Realistically, I probably should have taken this trade above 234, but I wanted to wait to see, what kind of volume we were dealing with and if we could get a pullback. I bought the move over 280. Cost base is 282 with 30 shares. I sold, a couple going into 290 as it looked like that it was struggling to come up over 3. But really, I ended up breaking even on it because it immediately pulled back. And this is like a lower price stock, so you expect lower or smaller moves. So with 30 shares, even if it moved up another 30 cents, I wasn't going to be making too much money on it. So we'll see if this thing ends up with the same story as everything else that we've seen this morning. This looks like it's already broken through its recent highs. Looks like there should be some resistance coming into some of these levels back here. So it's 284 makes sense. So we kind of hit resistance coming up into 3, since that's some recent resistance on it. But it looks to be in a better position at least than some of this other stuff that we've been looking at. So CLVS, as I said before, was looking a little rough, just because the recent highs were so close and they were so much higher. And CLVS still kind of just chilling right now, not really doing too much. So see if we push up on this new high over 266. Or if we're going to sell off here. So it's kind of a little bit of indecision. I'm going to buy some shares, see if we can get this push above 266. Looks like we got some buying coming in. Otherwise, I'll cut it pretty close. If it drops down to 250, I'll cut this. If we push up through 266, I'll buy more shares. But SPCB on the daily chart looks, it looks primed. It looks like it's ready to go. It doesn't look like there's nearly as much resistance as some of these other things that we've seen recently. So we're coming back up. Push through 270. Buy 10 more shares through 270. Cost basis right now is 266. Let's see if we can hold above 280. If we can hold above 280, then we'll try to buy some more shares coming up into $3. 284, this previous resistance point. So you see we just tapped off of it. See if we can break through that. Struggling a little bit coming up into 284, but big buy order coming through, just blew through that level. So holding up, good so far. We come up over 3 in this first push here. I'll probably take off half my position. So we're pushing up into 3 right now. Alright, so sold off half the position coming up over 3. So I still have 10 shares sitting at 270. I didn't end up buying any more because I kind of wanted to see a little bit of, like a holding pattern above 280. But in the first push over 280, we shot straight through 3. So it didn't really give me an opportunity to sit for a second and try to get some more shares. Holding above 3 pretty nicely right now. I say as it immediately breaks through. So my current cost basis is 270. Fiat Morta, thank you for following. Really appreciate that, man. If you want to follow along with me stock-wise, check out oliveguardians.com. I got the scanners up there. And what I'm trading right now has been popping up for the past few minutes on there. So holding above 290. If we push above $3 now, I might try to add on to my position. Since I have a decent cost basis going into this, I'm already 30 cents up on it. If we start dropping below 290 though, then I'll consider closing my position. So I bought 10 shares coming up over 3. So now we're looking for the move back up through 310. As far as 5-minute candles, when this candle closes, this will be our third green 5-minute candle in a row. So a little extended on that, but I'm not going to be too worried until this candle actually closes. So pushing up right now. So when we start seeing some resistance in our pushes, we're probably going to want to sell off our position. It just popped up to 314 and nearly immediately sold off. So that was a bit of a dip. Coming into 290. If we hold 290, I think we're looking okay. But yeah, it looks like we're breaking down through it. Unfortunate. So we'll see if we hold up. Holding 289. Yeah, okay. So at least selling off half my position here. As it looks like we're struggling a bit. Alright, I'm selling off my whole position. So I sold it off at my cost basis on the way down. oliveguardians.com. It's on the bottom of the stream. It says it. Free scanners. Yeah, so I watch usually anything that's moved above 25%, which is like when you first sit down, those are the things you're going to be looking at to see what people have been trading this morning. And then the movers are pretty much anything that's coming up on news, actively being traded. It's moved up more than 8% in the last 5 minutes, then it'll pop up there. So generally, I use the above 25%, just kind of when I first get here, look around and be like, all right, what have people traded? Have those things pulled back a little bit. How are they looking for a move back up? And then as it comes into, times where you would think news would come out on them, like 8 o'clock, 8:30, I'll look at the movers and see if anything starts popping up on news, which is how we found SPCB just recently. Seems to be struggling coming up into 3 right now. As soon as it popped up over 314, or up to 314, this thing just pulled back hard. So I'm probably going to wait to take a trade on this. And like I said, now this 5-minute candle just closed. So now we put in 3 pretty big 5-minute green candles in a row. So now on the 5-minute, we're looking a little bit extended. So I would expect some more resistance pushing up into these levels. Yeah, and if you got any suggestions for scanners, you guys want to see. Anyone else in the chat, if you got suggestions for like scanners or criteria for scanners that you think are good and will yield indicators that you think we can trade off of, I'd be happy to throw them on the site. So you could drop me a message and we can figure it out. So on this trade in SPCB, I bought for the push up over 266. Let's bring up the trading window here. I bought for the push up through 266. I bought relatively low share size though. I was only holding 20 shares coming up into here because a lot of the stocks that we've seen recently have had quite a hard time after they make their initial pullback. They really have not been pushing back up very well. So just to like shield myself from some of the risk, I bought smaller share size as we were pushing up. I wanted to see some consolidation below 3, at least put in maybe like one candle or a little bit of a pullback, like go over 290, pull back to 280, 285, and then push back up. And then on the push back up, I was going to buy some shares, but we pretty much moved in a straight line all the way up past 3. I sold off my first shares as we came up through 3, so then I was only holding 10 shares. And then as we came down, when it was holding 290 on this candle, I bought additional shares as we pushed up through 3 again, and it rejected really hard off 314. So I essentially ended up break even on the last 20 shares that I was holding. And then, I made 50 cents or close to it on the first 10 shares that I bought. And that happens. I mean, I could have been quicker on it to try to catch it as it came up through 314. I was expecting it to hit some resistance coming back up into this level since it rejected off of it pretty hard the last time we came up into it. But I wanted to give it, the opportunity to move up. I was hoping it would catch